every grandparent has that one overused line of advice. My grandmother says, Udavi seilanalo, ubatram seyakudade. Translation, if you cannot help, at least do not harm. Beautiful line. Wise, timeless. Except, in practice, not quite helpful. Because growing up, I learned something uncomfortable. Help and harm don't stay neatly separated in real life. And when they blur together, my grandmother's wisdom has nowhere to stand. Let me give you a few examples. During the monsoon, my neighbors made papaya leaf juice for those affected with dengue. Yes, it does help a little with platelet count, but treating it as a full cure, that's one way to worsen the disease. Then came COVID, and with it, the rise of WhatsApp forwards. One auntie in a group my parents were a part of kept sending gems like gargle with bleach to kill the virus. 2 bananas and 1 steaming session a day keep the doctor away. Replace your shampoo with hand sanitizer. All of these with praying hand emojis, of course. Now, here's where the situation gets worse. None of these people were trying to mislead anyone. They genuinely wanted to help. But in this part of the world, information zaps like Usain Bolt, and accuracy, well, it moves like me after having curd rice for lunch. Not quite fast, I'd say. And between these two speeds, good intentions keep slipping. Watching this over and over again, I realized something absurdly easy to miss. The primary difference between help and harm isn't intention, it's clarity. And clarity, especially with society drowning in confusion right now, is the most underrated kind of help there is. I personally learned this lesson the hardest while I tried designing a cancer awareness pamphlet for the school's cancer club. Let me walk you through the journey. Actually, let me show you. A year ago, my friends and I decided to take early screening awareness outside of hospitals into tea stalls, bus stands, and temple entrances. So I designed this. It had charts, incidence curves, a choropleth map, and enough jargon to traumatize a PhD student. As you can tell, I was beyond proud until we took it to people. Outside a temple, I handed a pamphlet to a devotee. No reaction, no questions, and obviously no engagement. Just a polite nod and a slow, respectful, "this boy needs therapy" kind of smile. That's when it hit me. Information is not clarity. Dumping data
Put it in your
does not equal helping someone understand.
in your pocket over here.
So we thought, all right, let's simplify. We turned everything into neat, tidy bullet points. And surprise, surprise, people looked at it the same way we all look at terms and conditions.
From that.
Their eyes did not a stroll. They saw the word cancer and they immediately pocketed the pamphlet. Turns out, or to my dismay rather, shorter confusion is still confusion. Then I entered my graphic design era. Rounded rectangles, color palettes, and whatnot. Just for a man to look at the stomach icon and think we were selling indigestion medicine. For another to look at the no smoking icon and roll his eyes like we were personally judging him. All in all, I designed a beautifully useless pamphlet. A design masterclass with zero comprehension. Then we finally asked the right question. What does someone actually need when they're holding this piece of paper? The answer, unironically, was quite simple.
She's not here.
Where do I go?
They're not
I'm
time.
scared. So we made a list of hospitals, contact numbers,
Besides,
appointment
hopefully I'll be doing another tech talk
government
next year, so
Hopefully.
Immediately, things changed. One man pointed to a hospital and said, "Good, I'll go there. There's a vegetable market nearby." Sir, that is not the point.
How do I change the thing? How do I change the slides?
Clear next steps equal immediate action.
A remote.
And I was ready to take it whatever way it came. Next breakthrough, language. English pamphlets for semi-urban areas like malls, Tamil-only versions for rural regions. Engagement skyrocketed. One flower vendor outside a temple even started distributing our pamphlets herself, unasked. She held one up and said, "Idu nalla puriyudu." This actually makes sense. That single line was much more fulfilling than all of my previous graphs combined. Clarity becomes powerful when you get the job done, disappear into the background, and let the community take over. Now, beyond public health, I noticed that this is a generation problem because for the first time in history, everyone sitting in this room is a broadcaster. Every time we forward something, we're publishing. Every time we explain something, we're teaching. Every time we give advice, we are intervening. In this setup, impact matters much more than intent. It doesn't matter whether we meant to help if what we shared confused someone. It doesn't matter whether we cared if what we passed along delayed action. The system does not fret about how you meant it. It just keeps multiplying the message. That is new. And we haven't updated our habits for it yet. Over time, I conjured up a few small habits that draw the fine line between effective help and accidentally misdirected help. Habit 1. Pause before you pass it on. If a piece of information makes you feel emotional, scared, angry, relieved, or unusually confident, that's usually the worst time to forward it. The most viral messages are the ones that sound urgent, secretive, or official, though in most cases they turn out to be false. So here's a tiny upgrade. Before forwarding anything, ask yourself this one question. If this turns out to be wrong, what's the worst thing that could happen? If your answer is someone delays treatment, someone gets confused, or someone gets hurt, that message needs your silence. Move on. Habit 2. Speaking the language that feels safe. And I don't just mean Tamil, English, Hindi, Kannada, etc. I mean emotional language, cultural language, age language. You surely wouldn't go up to your grandfather and say, "Yo, homie, this is low-key goated," while explaining what ChatGPT is. Neither would you go up to a 6-year-old and talk about the neurochemistry of emotional stability. Now, those are puffed up examples, but we get the point. Accuracy by itself can still break clarity, especially when it makes people feel small. You've probably seen this. They're explaining something carefully, and the moment your tone shifts to "I know better than you," the other person checks out. Why? Because your language did not feel safe. Sometimes clarity means slowing down, saying, "Let's look at this together," asking a question instead of giving an answer. At the end of the day, the goal was never to win the explanation. It was to keep the door open long enough for understanding to walk in. Habit 3 would be make uncertainty visible. We've grown up equating confidence to competence. If you sound sure, people think you're right. However, with the increasing fragility of information, false certainty is often more dangerous than ignorance. Most harm doesn't come from people saying, "I don't know." It comes from people saying, "I am sure," when they actually aren't or shouldn't be. So here's a small fix that changes everything. Instead of saying this will work, try this is what we know so far. Instead of acting like the expert in the room, be the person who acknowledges the limits of information. Counterintuitively, that makes people trust you more. Uncertainty, when stated clearly, can protect clarity. Now, let's take another look at my grandmother's trademark line. If you cannot help, at least do not harm. Now that help and harm have started to look deceptively similar, I think it's time for some refurbishing. Maybe today it sounds like
I'm fine.
if you cannot clarify, at least do not confuse. Now, that doesn't mean we always have to have the right answer or completely refrain from getting involved if we don't. Just means we choose our words with a little bit more care. It means knowing when to slow down, when to say, I'm not sure, or when to step aside to let better information speak. And if we can do that, even occasionally, clarity moves from being a luxury to a shared responsibility. And in a world this noisy, that might just be the most practical way left to help. Thank you.